Imagine a world without zero. There would be no mathematics as we know it, no computers, no electronics. Our religious systems, currency, measurements, and ways of telling time would all be different than they are today. The concept of zero altered the world. Zero was identified in AD 458. Over centuries, this concept of nothing would break mathematical, technological, and religious barriers. Andreas Snyder, a German cognitive scientist, once said humanity's discovery of zero was a total game changer. It is the equivalent to us learning a language. This unique number touches virtually every aspect of our lives. In fact, Google, the most popular search engine in the world, is named after a number, Google, which is 10th to the 100th power, which is 1 followed by 100 zeros. A googol is larger than the number of elementary particles in the universe, which amount to the 10th to the 80th power.
Zero's journey began a long time ago. The origin of zero started around 4,000 to 5,000 years ago when the Sumerian civilizations made the first counting system. However, they did not have a symbol for zero. When this system was passed down by the Sumerians to ancient Babylonians around 300 BC, it became confusing to differentiate numbers such as 1 and 100. As a solution, they created a symbol to act as a placeholder: two angled wedges.
Found by a farmer in 1881 in what is now known as modern-day Pakistan, the Bakhshali manuscript was the earliest known use of zero, believed to be created in times between 224 AD and 383 AD. It is currently in the Bodleian Library at the University of Oxford. At this time, zero served as a placeholder. Please take a look at this video from Oxford University.
In 1881, some birch bark was discovered with what was revealed to be mathematics written on it. And this isn't some sort of a theoretical text. It seems to be a practical document that is being used by merchants to do calculations. And this came to Oxford eventually in 1902. And it's been sitting here in the Bodleian, and it's full of mathematics. But the most exciting thing is that we've identified a zero.
In the Americas, approximately 350 AD, ancient Mayans also developed a zero as a placeholder. However, they never used it for mathematical equations, and instead, they utilized it in their calendar system to keep track of time. Here, we see zero as a placeholder. However, it is used in a unique way, one that we had yet to see. We see the start of zero's evolution throughout history. Eventually, when simple equations become too tricky without zero, this idea and use spread like a wildfire throughout the world.
In 458 AD, Aryabhatta, a mathematician and astronomer, identified the number zero and created a symbol for it. Aryabhatta was born in modern-day Bihar, India, and he's considered one of the greatest mathematicians of all time. He called it number zero by the name of Shunya. This number would change the world.
In Madhya Pradesh, India, we first see the symbol of zero in the 8th century Gwalior fort. Next to the fort is a temple called the Chaturbhuj Temple. In this 9th century temple, we see the use of zero when the number 270 is written on one of its walls. Here is the first time we see zero as a number with a value and not just a placeholder. The writing of zero is in Gwalior fort to this day. This is our final part of the beginning of our documentary. From here, we will be moving on to zero's impact in more recent times.
The number system originated in India and worked its way to Africa and then Europe by the Silk Road. Fibonacci popularized the idea of zero around Europe. Fibonacci brought other mathematical concepts like decimals, geometry, irrational numbers, and zero back to Italy. He also introduced to Europe the idea of a symbol or numeral for zero, which he named and called Zephram. Including zero, the Hindu-Arabic number system eventually gained widespread popularity as it was so much more practical to use for trade and commerce. During that time, there was religious suspicion to the use of zero by some users of the system in Christian Europe for a few centuries. Its use was prohibited in Florence in 1299. The medieval religious leaders at the time had heard of zero's spread, thus deeming it illegal, as it was pronounced satanic. They said that God was in everything that was. Everything that was not was of the devil. This shows a time when zero was not permitted to be used. Its concept and existence was banished from Europe. Fun fact about zero: although mathematicians have used zero since at least the 8th century, the word zero was first recorded in English only in the year 1604.
As the ancient Mayans kept track of time using calendars, we do the same, although we keep track of time in hours rather than weeks and months. In both scenarios, we use 0 to differentiate one from another in a calendar system that is most likely the first and 10th days in a month and the hours 1 and 10 o'clock in the daily cycle. This shows 0 breaking both technological and innovative barriers.
Zero's most widespread impact is math. Whether it be simple equations or abstract calculus, zero has played a significant role in the world of mathematics. Calculus came to be due to the use of zero, as well as coordinate grids, algorithms to solve division and multiplication problems, and algebra. Zero also made writing numbers easier, whether it be a number like 10 million or something like 0.0006. Zero plays a massive part in place value. Today, zero is considered a number, and it's frequently added into simple equations, such as 0 plus 7 is equal to 7, or more complex ones like y is equal to 7x plus 0, which at the end allowed for the creation of calculus, which in turn allowed for the production of physics, engineering, and computers. These are all examples of how zero broke mathematical barriers.
With zero now being a number, it allowed for a whole different view of technology. With the invention of binary code consisting of many series of ones and zeros, the computer was created. The use of binary code is just a way to store information or data in computers using specific commands. These commands can only be accessed through the numbers 0 and 1. Due to this creation, data could be stored in computers, allowing for many other electronics to be invented. Binary code is an example of zero breaking technological or innovative barriers.
As a side note, even honeybees can understand the concept that 0 is less than 1. This was determined from an experiment performed by Australian scientists. In this experiment, sugar was placed behind panels, with each panel containing a different number of shapes on each board. For the bees to attain the reward, they must go through the panel with the least amount of shapes on it. When presented with a blank panel, the bees most of the time would realize that nothing was fewer than 1. However, they seemed to struggle more often when being asked to choose which numbers were lower, 1 or 0, rather than digits like 6 or 0. Only around 60% of bees were able to identify that 0 was less than 1 on their first try. It is quite interesting that a bee can easily understand a concept not so often recognized by children.
Throughout history, zero has helped humanity grow in so many ways. At first, we only used it in simple equations, which in turn led to the further creation of more complicated math, such as calculus. We began with just calendars, and now we can tell the time of day and the weeks ahead of us. Religions like Hinduism and Buddhism practice the concept of nothing. Finally, we created code to program one of the most common forms of technology known to date. Eventually, it even taught us to teach animals that the concept of zero is less than 1, making it truly fascinating. This is how zero took humans to the next level, and this is how zero expanded human knowledge. The number 0 is not a positive nor a negative, neither a prime or composite number, nor it is a unit. It is more than just a number. It is a revolutionary concept. Zero made many impacts and broke many barriers. Nothing took us many places. पहले जन्मी है जहाँ पे कला अपना भारत वो भारत